Well, we're joined here today by Father Vincent Lampert. How are you today?
I'm very well, Seth. Thanks for having me on today.
No, we're really excited to actually have a real life exorcist on the podcast. So, just to start off, let me go ahead and ask why you became an exorcist. How did that come about? Was this something you chose or was it something that was chosen for you?
It was something that was chosen for me. So I was ordained a Catholic priest back on June the 1st of 1991. So I'm in my 31st year and 14 years into priesthood. So back in 2005, my bishop in the city of Indianapolis appointed me to do this. So when a priest is ordained, he promises obedience to his bishop and his successors. So the bishop of Indianapolis told me that he wanted me to do this ministry. Indianapolis has always had a priest assigned to this task, even when it fell out of practice. During the 1960s, very turbulent times, the church had the Second Vatican Council, and many dioceses discontinued the ministry of exorcism. A lot of people even thought that perhaps evil was not really personified in what we call the devil and his evil spirits, the fallen angels. A lot of times people might say that evil is nothing more than humanity's inhumane treatment of one another. So my bishop said, I'm not really sure what I'm asking you to do, but because we've always had a priest in this role, I want you to be that priest and go and figure it out.
How was figuring it out? Do you have any stories from some of your first cases? Some of your first positive cases for
So, yeah,
starting?
absolutely. When I was appointed, I became one of only 12 Catholic priests appointed to this ministry in the United States. The church says the best way to train to be an exorcist is through the apprenticeship model, but obviously there really weren't enough priests in the United States that I could turn to, that I could mentor under. So I traveled to Rome in the early part of 2006, and I was able to live in Rome for 3 months. I found a Franciscan priest who was an exorcist who permitted me to observe 40 exorcisms that he performed over the time that I was there. And then I was able to learn firsthand the church's ministry to those who were up against the forces of evil and who were seeking the help of the church. If you talk about examples, I still remember the first exorcism that I sat in on. I was talking with this elderly woman and her husband. We're in a small little office room, and she's explaining to me why she's possessed. And I'm thinking, well, she doesn't look like or act like she's possessed. She seems very normal. And during the whole time of the conversation, the priest who was training me, his name was Father Carmine. Father Carmine would go in and out of the room. He came in one time and he placed a roll of paper towels on the table, and then he walked back out and he came back in again and tied a plastic grocery bag onto the wall radiator. He walked back out again, and then he came back in again, and he started to pray the prayer of exorcism. And as soon as he did that, the demon manifested. This little elderly woman who had been very kind and pleasant that I was speaking with, immediately it was no longer her. A demon had taken over. Her eyes rolled in the back of her head. She began to growl and snarl. She was foaming at the mouth, throwing out blasphemies against God and cussing out the priest, Father Carmine. He was unfazed. He reached over and tore a paper towel off the roll that he had brought into the room. He wiped the lady's mouth off and threw it in the plastic bag on the wall radiator and just continued to pray. Of course, the whole time I'm thinking to myself, what in the world has my bishop gotten me into? But it turned out to be a very good training experience being there in Rome. And again, then coming back to the States, I've been doing this ministry now for the past 17 years.
Now, I'm going to be the devil's advocate, probably quite literally in this one instance. So let's say that I'm really skeptical and I just don't buy that there really are demonic possessions in the world. Now, as an exorcist, what sort of tests do you have to go through to even filter out all these other things like psychological issues or people faking
Mhm.
it?